And then I'm gonna share my screen because, let me see, I kind of wrote up the nominal group technique that we need to use today. And I also just copy and pasted what basically we're meeting for. So the goal of this meeting is to come up with a rank ordered list of the top 3 communicative skills that we come up with as a group, which is awesome. So where we are supposed to use the nominal group technique, which we all read about this week. But I thought it would be good to kind of like go through it again and be like, okay, these are the steps that we're gonna do while we're meeting together. So stage 1 is introduction explanation, kind of what we're doing right now. Set what the goal is for our meeting, clarify the purpose of the meeting, and outline what we're gonna do. And then stage 2 is a silent generation of ideas. So basically, we each take time to come up with our own ideas of what we think the top communication skills are. And then we write those down by ourselves. Then stage 3 is sharing those ideas that we came up with as a individual. And then as we're doing that, I'll write them all. So we have a list of all our different ideas. And then stage 4 is when we get to discuss all of them, and you can ask questions about which ones you need clarification on or which ones you really liked or things like that. And then lastly, we vote and we rank them and we come up with our top 3. So pretty simple. Also, that's like my best interpretation of this assignment. So if any of you guys are like,
I just had one question.
Yeah.
Do you know if we're supposed to use like the 3 that our interviewee, like who we interviewed, what they said, or are we supposed to, because it says as proposed by your interviewee, which then I feel like kind of our generation of ideas is just looking at our paper that, or our interview page.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm not exactly sure. I guess we could do it either way. Or what we could do is like start like make sure that you incorporate in like your silent generation of ideas, the 3 ideas that you came up with in your interview, and then like we can come up with more too. I don't know. I feel like I'm not exactly an authority person, so it's really whatever we want to do. Because yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
I'm sure whichever way we do it, it will be fine.
Okay. So maybe if you're like super passionate about the 3 communicative skills you came up with in the interview and you're like, okay, these are the top 3, I'm gonna fight for them, then you can use those or just come up with new ones. I don't know. Does that sound okay with everyone? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I guess we'll just take time now to just come up with some ideas. So you can just write them on a paper or whatever you have by you. And maybe, do you feel like 2 minutes is good? Okay, I'll just set a timer for 2 minutes so we're not doing this forever. And then we'll come back and we'll share our ideas. So you're writing ideas about the top 3, or come up with ideas that you think are really valuable communication skills. Okay, meet back in 2 minutes. Okay, that was 2 minutes. How's everyone doing? Was that enough time? Okay, perfect. Okay, then stage 3 is sharing ideas. So I thought I could just write them here as we share them, so we have kind of a list of all the different ideas, but honestly part of my spelling, because whenever I'm typing in front of a group, I always spell things so bad. So yeah, if you have any that you are really passionate about and want to share with the group, that's awesome. So
I was wondering if we could each just share a little bit about our interviewee and then do the top 3 for each one of us, just so they can kind of get some context to what their ideas are.
Great idea.
Coming from. Does that
Yeah.
work?
Perfect. Yep, I love it. Yeah,
Cool.
feel free to say anything, guys, because I'm definitely not an authority. So
No.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
You want to start?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I interviewed my friend who just graduated from law school, and now he's a clerk for the Idaho Supreme Court. And so he is writing up proposals because the judges can't look over everything all the time. So his job is to pretty much take the appeal case and kind of break it down for the judge, and the rest of the judges, because there's 4 other judges as well. And then they take it and then they decide what they want to do with it before they go to trial. And so then he kind of takes it and rewrites it so it can be more to the point of where they're trying to go with the trial itself. And so he's busy, and now he's doing everything online too. So it's mainly written that he's doing the kind of communication. But one of the big one was knowing your audience, because when he's writing this stuff up, he's writing it for judges and lawyers, so he can use a lot of the lingo and stuff like that. But he's also writing it for the public when it actually goes to trial, because so he has to know who he's talking to and what he's writing for. And then also, everyone's so busy, he says, being brief, getting to the point, make sure your ideas are concrete, not ambiguous. And then he says, like, when he's preparing for oral communication, since it is like trying to get to the point, he wants to make sure that he has questions and topics for discussion, so they don't get off their task and they can just focus on that and move on to the next topic. I don't know. Is that all right?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Cool.
All right. Thank you for sharing.
I'll go, I guess. So I interviewed my dad for my interview, I guess. So he has been a registered nurse for like 30 plus years. So he's been a registered nurse for a hot minute. And he gave me inspiration to get into the nursing program and actually what's the word I'm thinking of? Like go actually get my nursing degree. So I feel like I don't really have the be brief and get to the point was one of the ones that he talked about. So kind of that one already. He did say to be very specific with what you talk to about your audience or talk to your audience, because there's a lot of medications and procedures and stuff that can be easily like miscommunicated, and that could be fatal to a person, or that could be really bad for a person if they're getting the wrong surgery they don't need or whatever. So yeah, I really think that was kind of a main one that he talked about, is just being avoiding miscommunication. So yeah.
I can go next. I talked with a family friend, and she is a paramedic. She's been a paramedic for a really long time. She's a training captain and their infection control officer. So everything with COVID has been very crazy in her life because that's her main job. But one of the ones she said, which I think goes with number 2, is be clear and concise. Especially with paramedics, if you don't like use direct information, it can leave the patient alarmed and increase their stress. So if you're just like, you need to calm down, they would take that poorly, rather than saying like, take slow, deep breaths, like walking them through it. And then she said nonverbal communication, like being able to, I guess, like assess the situation. She said a big part of their job is just watching and taking in their surroundings, like looking at the patient, assessing the surroundings, seeing if the scene is safe. Like it allows them to assess the seriousness of the situation. And then another one she said was empathy, because for her, people are inviting her into their worst day ever, and you might not think of it as an emergency, but for them it is. And yeah, and if you have empathy, it builds the patient's trust and calms anxiety. Yeah.
For my interviewee, I did my dad as well. He's a homicide detective. Some of the things that he said were very helpful was like the nonverbal communication too, because he has to see like how a person reacts to certain questions when he's interviewing them, seeing like whether they lean more guilty or not guilty on certain things. Another one was empathy too, because sometimes he has to give really bad information to parents and talk about them with like things that their kids may be doing or involved in. So having a lot of empathy is really important in his job. The last thing he said was active listening, because he has to listen to a lot of people and a lot of different sides to one story. So paying attention to stuff like that was very important in his job.
I guess I'll go next. I did my second cousin, who happens to be the veterinary physician in the town that I'm stationed in right now. So it helped to think of him because I grew up on a ranch, and being a vet was one of my options for when I get out. I did the interview over the phone, so I may not have worded it how I needed to, or he may not have heard it how he needed to. He just did the three as the nonverbal, the verbal, and the written. But in his profession, the way he described it, they're skills to have, because you're talking to the clients about their animal and that, and they're very picky on if stuff needs done, like insurance wise or money wise, stuff like that. The nonverbal is very important to watch them, because you don't want to, if it's something simple, you don't want to be like, hey, we need to do this, and then they can't afford it. So he just said, if you're like, you just watch their reactions and watch your reaction and what you do for nonverbal. Because if you go with your hand on the doorknob and they really want to talk because there's something wrong, they're going to just try to stop and not worry about it because it looks like you're in a hurry. And then the verbal, he says, is really close to that because they need to hear what's going on. And written, he said, is like the third one, but it could be the top one depending where it's at, because the written is very important for like lawsuit type stuff in their side. Because if you don't write it down, you're the doctor, you wrote it down, hey, they need this medication, this is what needs to happen. They can come back and say, hey, you didn't tell me to do that, and they could try to go to court on something like that, and he's got proof that he wrote it. But those are the skills for just the ways of communication is what he had told me.
Awesome. Okay. And then I talked to my mom, who she isn't anymore, but her whole life she's a teacher and then also a counselor for a little while. So it was cool because that's, I'm studying to be a teacher. So it was cool to talk to someone in a profession that I'm looking into. And one of the things she said was intentional listening. I'm gonna type it. And basically just how important it is to listen intentionally so that you can understand like what a student is trying to communicate to you before you can react or do anything about it. So first you have to listen really well to be able to communicate back positively. And then her second one was to ask thought-provoking questions. just to kind of further the growth of the student when you're communicating with them, like being able to ask a question that's going to encourage more thought and development. And then lastly, I think we already have it, is clear communication. Yeah, I'll just add a bit to that one, just because when you're like communicating lesson plans or any information to students, you have to be so clear about it to avoid questions and misunderstanding. So it's really important to be clear and concise in communication. So perfect. Okay. So we already are seeing a lot that we have all kind of shared, which is really cool. But I guess the next step is group discussion. So I don't know if like any of you want to advocate for one of your points or want to add something or ask someone else about one of the points. We can kind of just have a little bit of a discussion about it, and then we'll vote and be done.
Sweet. I feel like be brief, get to the point, and be clear and concise are kind of the same thing. Does people agree? So I feel like we could just probably nix one or the other. And I feel like we should do, we could say be brief, clear, and concise to like, and then, yeah.
Okay, what do we think about nonverbal communication? Because we had 3 people mention that. So does anyone want to advocate for nonverbal communication or advocate against it?
I'd advocate for it. I think it's really important. And it's also, I think the empathy one is really important because like through all those professions, empathy still has to be at the core of it all. So I definitely advocate for that. And intentional listening. I think that one's a really good one too, because if you're not listening to what they really have to say and what their true meaning is, then the communication goes nowhere. And yeah, the meaning is not concrete, it's ambiguous. So those are kind of the 3 that I was looking at.
I also think we should active listening and intentional listening.
I agree.
Just into one, so that it's easier to see all of the options.
All right.
I think number 2 and number 4, I think they're kind of the same thing. Like what I was talking about is being specific in communication, just definitely being clear and concise. And then the nonverbal, I advocate for that. My dad did talk about how a lot of the patients that he takes care of, they not always like tell you the exact answer. You have to like actually non-verbally read them and read like if they're in pain or like something that you can see through your audience. So I advocate for that one. So yeah.
I would also advocate for nonverbal communication because something that she said was, as a paramedic, you can't like when they arrive on scene, their patients can't always speak to them. So a lot of it is nonverbal and understanding how they're feeling and how they can best help them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like nonverbal determines how we interact with everyone. Like if you come home and your roommate, you can just tell like they've had a bad day or something. You're not going to be all bubbly and happy. So I feel like there's so much we can read from nonverbal. So I definitely agree with you guys on that one for sure. Okay, any last contributing ideas?
I have one. I'm not sure how real important it is, but be brief and be specific. They can be like the same thing, but depending on what type of communication, because specific can mean a whole lot more information you might need to know too. I'll see how they're the same, but they could also be very different at the same time.
Do you feel like we need to add be specific in communication as a separate point? Or do you feel like we could say be brief, clear, and
We could
specific in
say, we
communication?
could say be specific, clear, and concise, because I think concise and brief can kind of go hand in hand.
That's good. All right, is everyone ready to vote?
Do you think number 2 is putting too many together in one, or do you think it'll be fine?
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I think
don't
it's
know.
fine. I think it describes it perfectly, like
Okay.
as a type of communication, I guess. So
And I feel like too, like we've all shared different examples about in different scenarios about why all three of those things are so important. So I think like it can be kind of looped into a category because if you're speaking concisely, you're probably going to be specific and clear. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Should we like chat our top 3 or something?
Yeah, that sounds perfect. And then we'll tally them, I guess. Or I don't know. Okay, so chat your top 3. I'm going to stop sharing this. Okay, there we go.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's okay. If you push to the enter bar, it submits it.
Sorry.
It is okay.
Okay, well, there's mine.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, the enter doesn't work to space it. It just I just found that out.
That's okay.
That is.
Okay. That's everyone, right? Okay, now I'm going to share my screen again. I feel like a teacher is so weird. Okay, there we go. Now, let me see if I can see the chat. Also, hello. Okay, maybe that's not gonna work. Oh, there we go. Okay, I can't see the chat. So would someone just like to like read them out and then I'll give them little tallies by the ones that
So,
Okay.
Not, you can, okay. Number 2 has 1,
Sorry, I give you a hard job.
I can see it.
5 out of.
Okay.
Um,
Everyone else can verify her counting.
We just go through each one and then you can just put like a hatch mark or something next to it.
Yeah, that's good too.
So instead
That'd
of,
be
yeah, 'cause I'm kind of trying to do the same thing and trying to add them up, and it's just to
Okay.
be sure if that works for
Yeah,
everyone.
let's just do that. Sounds good.
So 1 for nonverbal, 1 for specific, clear, and concise, 1 for empathy. Then we have 1 for intentional listening, one for nonverbal, and one for specific.
Wait, okay.
Sorry, am I going too
Sorry,
fast?
I'm not fast enough at that
No,
at all.
I can't see your screen, what you're typing in, so I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It was okay. Sorry. Okay, I have one for be specific, one for nonverbal, one for empathy, and one for intentional listening.
Then we have one more for nonverbal.
Okay,
Then one for specific, clear, and concise.
got it.
Then one for nonverbal.
Awesome.
One for specific, clear, and concise.
Seeing a trend.
One empathy. One clear and concise. One nonverbal. One empathy. One clear and concise. One intentional listening. One nonverbal. One intentional listening. One empathy. And one nonverbal. And that's it.
All right. So it looks like be specific, clear, and concise, nonverbal, and empathy take the win. So I think that's all we have to do. And then we each just write a reflection, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna take a quick.
Yeah, take a picture, write it down, whatever you need to do.
Are we posting the things that we're writing on the discussion board? Is that what we're posting on? Or no?
No, I think it's just a like a reflection that you submit with a like on the module link.
Yeah, it's just
Oh, okay. I didn't know if there's an assignment on there or not. Okay.
It is.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just like submitting a homework assignment. It's not a discussion board, I don't think, but.
Okay.
And then I'll submit the recording link with mine, so she'll have a copy of our conversation. All right, everyone all set? Everyone has the 3 down?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's so nice to meet you guys. I hope you have a good rest of your night.
Thanks.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you
Definitely.
for hosting.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
one.